Good morning, North Carolina. How you doing today? Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm elated to be here with you for Mobile Monday. I'm going to make sure that everything is connected and that we are streaming live to the almighty Facebook. So just checking here just to make sure that everything is working the way that I think that it should work. And guess what? Welcome to Mobile Monday. I'm your girl, Marki Lemons-Ryhal, real estate keynote speaker and international best-selling author. I'm coming this morning to talk to you about bridging the gap now with intentional inclusion. What are some of the things that you can do locally and as a state? This is me back in Peoria, Illinois, back in 1975, my parents, my teen parents, decided to move to the suburb of Peoria. We were the first Black family to live in our condo development, and I was the only little Black girl that attended my elementary school. Because my parents were young, 2 years later, they decided to split. And I went from being the only little Black girl in the classroom to moving back to the south side of Chicago, where I lived in a predominantly Black community. The only time that I ever saw anyone Caucasian is when I went to school. I attended a private and a parochial high school, so I had several white friends, but none lived in close proximity of where I actually lived. Growing up on the Chicago South Side, Chicago is the most segregated city racially and economically. I had to become intentional. But I like to remind people I have not forgotten where I come from, the ghetto of the South Side of Chicago, born and raised in Inglewood. But I did decide to change where I am going. And one of the things that I had to be very intentional about was to become intentionally inclusive of all, of people who didn't look like me, people who didn't sound like me, people who don't eat sweet potato pie for Thanksgiving. Guess what? I not only do I believe that everybody should eat sweet potato pie for Thanksgiving, I did not find out until recently that everyone does not eat fried catfish, perch, or whiting on Friday with a side of spaghetti and coleslaw. And that some of my friends was like, Marky, where do they do that? That is disgusting. And I'm like, baby, they do it on the south side of Chicago. But what I realized is it's a Chicago South Side Black thing because even people in the South don't necessarily eat that combination. I want to know, what are you going to do different? How are you going to be intentional? We have fair housing rules nationally, statewide, locally, and city, to the point that if I looked at where I live at, the only two non protected classes are registered sex offenders and college students. We have one of the most diverse associations in the country. I am on the board of directors of the Chicago Association of Realtors. I am a major donor. I am a state legislative contact. I have served state committees, national committees, and I've had the opportunity to step foot in 46 of the 50 states. So I take great pride in being intentional and leaving my husband and my children to go be of service to those in real estate. On the left hand side, you have our advocate leaders. Those are all major donors. But look at that diversity. And then we have a committee called the 77. We are the most diverse real estate committee in this country. We represent every look, probably every race, every religion. But when you look at that map, there's a representative from that community who understands that community. What we're experiencing here in Chicago is something that you should experience everywhere in the world. The way I think of it is having an advanced degree. See, if I was relying solely on the education of what I got from the Chicago South Side, I would kind of be stupid, right? I would be ignorant. I wouldn't be exposed to other philosophies. One of the first things I did was I lived in Reykjavik, Iceland, as a foreign exchange student in 1986. And in Iceland, I became Helga's daughter, right? And I didn't use the word grandmother, it was my ama. As a matter of fact, whenever I have grandchildren, they're going to call me ama, which is Icelandic for grandmother. But imagine all those little things that make you more diverse, make you able to serve a broader spectrum of people. How do we do that with our strategic alliances? How do we do that with our minority trade organizations like the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals or the National Association of Real Estate Brokers or the Women's Council? How do we do that? Well, we have to have a strategy, but we must take action as Realtor members. What action are you going to take today in order to be intentional, in order to be more inclusive, in order to be ethical, in order to adhere to license law, in order to adhere to the fair housing rules and regulations that govern us nationally, statewide, locally, and county? Well, here's a couple of examples. I am very strategic. I am inclusive. So, a couple of little things that you can do via social media and technology. I've had the opportunity to sit in this chair ever since Friday, March the 13th, when my life changed. I was supposed to be on the road 100 nights this year. However, that did not happen. I had already traveled the distance around the world by Friday, March the 13th. But everything that I was doing face to face through the palm of your hand, through different apps, you can do right now. So, what I want you to do is I want you to pull out your mobile device. And I want you to think about some of these things that you can do. The first thing, we have ARIA, okay? And ARIA is a trade organization that is heavily focused in Asian realtors. Now, you don't have to be Asian to be a member, okay? None of these trade organizations do you have to be a woman to join, or Asian to join, or Black to join, or gay to join, or a veteran to join. But when we start thinking about ARIA, what I would ask you to do is to go over to Instagram and to follow their account. But I don't only want you to do this for ARIA, I want you to do it for your local association, your state association, and the National Association of Realtors. There's an app that you can download that allows you to take or curate the content that you see on Instagram, and you can then repost that directly to your feed. Here's the beautiful thing, you could do it with video, and a lot of people just take a screenshot and edit it. You don't have to do any of that anymore. So, the first tool that I want you to implement in being strategic and to share the message, right, to collaborate in real time online would be the tool Repost, Repost. We also have the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. The Latino market is the fastest growing real estate market currently here in the US. And no, you don't have to be Spanish speaking, but you can definitely collaborate with NARAP online and if they're having any face to face events in your marketplace. Here's how my association decided to collaborate with them online. This is National Hispanic Heritage Month. We want to acknowledge one of our industry partners, NARAP, and it was for Hispanic Heritage Month. But if you are working with these organizations, if you have a Twitter account, when you go over to Twitter, next to the following button, you will see that there is like a bell with a plus sign. If you tap on that bell with the plus sign, anytime any of the organizations that you are following, if you turn that bell on, what will happen is that you can get a notification for all of their tweets. That means that if you don't have anything to talk about, if you want to know what's going on with the different partners, the different strategic alliances. Then you turn on that notification, you're going to receive it, and you can then retweet their information. So we're going to use repost over on Instagram, and on Twitter, we're going to turn on the notifications, and then we're going to repost their content. But there is a tool that has been free for numerous years. They have just decided recently to implement a actual premium version, but I love this tool. It is if this then that. IFTTT.com. If you take a look up at the top left hand side, IFTTT.com. If this then that. If this then that allows you to automate redundant task. And so things like reposting things from Instagram, sharing it to places that Instagram doesn't share it, and also collaborating with people on Twitter. But there are so many other things that you can do with if this then that. But think about what is redundant in your life. How can you save a few seconds off of your life and be intentional? Some of the things that you can do is keep your Facebook and Twitter profile pictures in sync. Over 170,000 people use that automation. So that means that every time they update their Facebook account, it also updates their Twitter account. Another one that you can do is you could post to Facebook by voice. Oh, that's excellent, right? And so you don't have to type it in. You can post by voice. You can save new photos you're tagged in on Facebook to Dropbox. My assumption is if someone is tagging you in a photo, you did not take that photo, but you still want to have a copy of said photo, especially if you're looking good in it. And so you want to turn on save new photos you're tagged in on Facebook to Dropbox. These are some of the things that you get to do with if this, then that. Another trade organization that you can collaborate with is NARAB, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. NARAB came about to create democracy in housing. It was the first minority trade organization based on the fact that Blacks did not have the ability to buy or that there was discrimination in housing. Be clear, there is still discrimination in housing as it pertains to minorities, especially those that are Black. When you think about the ability to find out information, okay, and not making assumptions about other people, go over to YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, right behind Google, and Google does own it. But anytime you are liking a video or anything of that nature, you can set it up that it automatically tweets that information. And so not only can I go here to get information, I can automate my interactions with YouTube videos. Things like this. You can get a notification when there's a new video from a channel you subscribe to, or you can just turn on the notifications. But this would be very beneficial. Automatically tweet the videos you like. And so if you like a video because it's great content, you don't have to worry about tweeting it. Because of if this then that, it will automate that task. And if you are trying to come up with additional resources for your buyers and sellers, you could save all of your like videos to a spreadsheet and then take that to create maybe top 10 tips for living or working here or top 10 YouTube resources. So something that you can do with that spreadsheet. Also, we have the Women's Council of Realtors, which is now the Women's Council. This is where leaders are made. When we look at female leadership at a national level, I think it's something like 70% have been members of the Women's Council. There is one social media platform that is dominated by women, and that is Pinterest. I love Pinterest. One thing I love about Pinterest, unlike all of the other platforms, content doesn't have to be new to be relevant. The older the content is on Pinterest, the more interactions it's had, or better yet, the most relevant it might be. But you can also automate your Instagram to your Pinterest by using if this, then that. So one of the automations I use through If This Then That is sync my new Instagram post to a Pinterest board. And so no, you don't have to just go over to Pinterest and use it. You can actually automate that. So imagine you're growing your sphere of influence, you're growing your social media platforms, and you're being intentional because you're setting up notification from your strategic alliances, and you never run out of content because you're curating their content in order to populate your feeds. Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. How do you plan to be more strategic and intentional in 2020 and 2021 while learning something new? I know it's hard to change your mind. I've been intentional essentially my entire life. I reach across the table. I sit with people who don't look like me. I sit with people who don't sound like me because what I've realized, it makes me smarter, but also because it is the right thing to do. My goal is to erase all isms in the world and that we take the time to just get to know people. Forget color, forget the tone and sound of their voice, forget their accent. Everyone deserves a home, and it is our responsibility as realtors to put them in those homes. I'm going to come and see if anyone has any questions, and I'm not seeing any questions at this time. What I would like to do is to thank you for being here today with me for Mobile Monday, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come over here and to participate. Thank you for being here today for Mobile Monday.